So if you find lice on your child,
cut his fucking head off!
Well, greeting, kids. This is a particularly interesting video that I'm planning to make today. All of you, I'm sure, are very aware of the unrest, the riots, the overall chaos that's going on. Now, this all started, well, I should say the spark met the powder keg with the death of George Floyd in Minnesota, when Derek Chauvin, a police officer, was making an arrest, placed his knee on Floyd's neck, and end result, Floyd died and chaos ensued. The video was obviously very, very disturbing, where Floyd was crying for mercy, was screaming for help, and the officers seemingly did not stop what they were doing. Now, when this initially came out, I made the statement that I had noticed that there was a lot of race baiting going on. That story came out in the story of the woman in Central Park who called the police on a black gentleman over him giving her a ration of shit over not having a leash on her dog. But the thing that was similar about both of these is race was at the top of the headline, and it was the motivation. Now, when these came out, I made the statement that I wasn't going to comment specifically on what happened to George Floyd until I had all the information. Now, don't get me wrong. The video sickened me. Watching that man cry for help as the officer had his knee on his neck, and as it turned out, there was two more officers holding him down. It was a clear sign of brutality. However, the reason I didn't want to comment on it is, on all accounts, Derek Chauvin basically choked the life out of Floyd by applying his knee to his neck and leaning into it. The issue that I had with it, which struck me as strange when I initially watched it, after I got over the fact of just how sad the video actually was, watching a man crying out for his mother during his last moments of life. But I rewatched it a few times, and of course a few questions came to mind. First of all, if he was being choked and wasn't able to breathe, how was it that he could scream and actually cry out for help? The other thing that struck me is the video, I believe, was between 5-8 minutes long, that the ambulance arrived. Now, who called the ambulance and why? So, of course, I wondered exactly, because I know the police were going to follow the narrative that he was resisting arrest. Was the man on drugs? Was something crazy going on that wasn't being shared through the media? Because obviously the media knows that a story with race being made the issue is going to sell. It's going to be inflammatory. It's going to not only draw attention, but it's going to benefit whatever their narrative is as well. You know, these stories aren't done out of the goodness and virtue of the journalists' hearts. There tends to be a motivation. A bit of news that just came out, and it's not being widely shared for some reason. Everybody's concentrating on the protests and the riots, is that the first autopsy has come in on George Floyd. Now, I want to stress that I am not blaming the victim here. There, by no means did George Floyd deserve anything that happened to him. However, it's obvious that there was misconduct, and I'm not trying to put it lightly. Obviously, there was severe issues with the police officer, specifically Derek Chauvin. Now, when these reports came in and people were trying to sweep this under the rug, it turns out that he did not die of asphyxiation. He didn't die of a direct result of being choked. Also, he had pre-existing conditions, seemingly heart conditions, and there were, quote, potential intoxicants in his system. Now, that's a little bit of a game changer, because I know a lot of people are screaming. They want blood. They want these cops' heads on the platter. And they don't only want these cops' heads on a platter. They seem to want all cops' heads on a platter. And when it came out that Chauvin was charged with murder in the third degree, that just wasn't good enough. Well, the fact is, how do I put this? Because the police obviously were indifferent. There was brutality involved, but there's no indication that it was either racially motivated, other than what race the people involved happened to be. So it is twisted into that narrative. But there's no indication that the cop wanted to kill him. Now, if the cop pulled his gun out while the man was handcuffed, pointed it at his head, and blew his brains out on the sidewalk, it would have been obvious. The fact that they were restraining him, even though it was incompetent and brutal, just showed that the cop was indifferent as to that he was putting a human life in danger. Now, he had no way of knowing that this guy had medical issues. He just felt like he was, he felt powerful. He felt like he was entitled to treat this human being like something less than human. But that's not first-degree murder. And really, technically, what that is manslaughter. But with the reaction, that really doesn't seem to be good enough for anyone. And I got to be honest, with all of the aftermath resulting from this, I've got to agree. It just seems like there really needs to be some accountability. Now, I don't know if the entire police station being burned down is accountability. I don't know if the fact that this officer is being arrested and let's face it, his life is ruined. I don't know if that's enough, because there's more deaths that are resulting. But what is unfortunate more than even that is the fact that people are rioting. Now, I understand the protests. People are fed up. The rioting, I am not behind. And what's disturbing to me and what actually angers me is the number of people that are clearly getting off on the fact that there's rioting, there's destruction, people's lives are being destroyed. I just can't get behind it, and it does genuinely sicken me. You're probably noticing with this video, usually I throw a humorous spin on subjects I'm talking about. There's nothing humorous about this. It went from the COVID crisis, which seemingly everybody's forgotten about now, with social distancing. The same people preaching the social distancing and the COVID Karens and such are the ones now they're supporting the riots. Somehow they're not afraid of the virus being spread now, because we've moved on to a whole nother subject with our attention deficit, short attention spans in the age of technology. I'm disgusted to the point where I've always embraced not only discourse on my Facebook page or any social media, but I don't even mind arguing once in a while, having pissing matches, throwing insults back and forth. But I lost my tolerance. I kind of lost my head the other day. I deleted a few people that maybe I shouldn't have. Definitely deleted anybody that's being disrespectful or name-calling. Now I'm going to backtrack a little bit. before this incident happened with George Floyd, I'd been commenting on just the sheer amount of race baiting. Now I understand why. I understand that the media is very left leaning. They are in bed with the Democrats for the most part, other than a few stations. They're very partisan, and they want to create unrest, be it because of COVID or via race baiting. They obviously, and many people, want Trump out of office, and they look at unrest as being their only hope to do this. Now, I noticed a giant amount of race baiting over the past few weeks, and it all kind of started in when people started commenting on the protests in Michigan's over the shutdown, where there were militia types with guns standing outside, and there was an awful lot of attention drawn to their race, and an awful lot of people seem to be of the opinion, well, if black folks were doing this, they would be shot. There's also a lot of memes out there where they're showing the protesters in Michigan that were protesting the lockdown and showing people while rioting being tear gassed. It's race baiting. And it kind of started with that. And I was noticing a lot of people calling the individuals that were protesting in Michigan Neanderthals, white supremacists, this and that. A lot of they were casting a lot of aspersions on these people. It went from that to the next story that was newsworthy was an individual wearing a Klan hood rather than a mask in the grocery store. I don't know if this was a prank. I don't know if this was a setup, but it definitely drew attention to, it became a partisan issue. People were claiming that people that were right-leaning were against the lockdown, and people that were left-leaning seemed to just jump on top of their soapboxes, call people names, call them stupid, and claim that you should wear your mask, and under no circumstances should you not be social distancing. And those protests were an example of these stupid white supremacists not social distancing, and they really hope they all caught COVID and this and that and the other thing. Noticeably, the same people have no issues whatsoever with these riots, and I don't really see much, if any, speculation this could cause a COVID outbreak. So it seems like COVID is no longer the subject du jour, no longer people's excuse to fight amongst the political parties. Now, what I'm finding particularly distasteful is the fact that people are embracing these riots. They're embracing violence. I know police officers have been shot in Oakland as of today. I know that people seem to really be getting off on the chaos, which I get it. You know what? The 20-year-old me might be the same way. It's like, let it all burn. But the adult me realizes this is having a real impact on our country. The race baiting is causing even more of a division among people, and I truly feel we are on the edge of a civil war. Now, if that's what you want, you don't give a shit, whatever. It's your prerogative to think what you want. But I've noticed questioning this narrative and questioning what's happening, people are apt to call you a bootlicker, a racist, a this, a that. What these people don't understand is that this is going to profoundly affect all of us for years to come. The fact that people are burning down cities over a incident of police brutality that they've turned into a racial incident of police brutality. Now, ironically enough, just a few weeks ago, there was the Arbery case where the young man was Well, it's debatable. The narrative was, when it first happened, the way I heard it for the very first time was young black man jogging has two white people chase him down and murder him. Much like the Covington case with those kids with MAGA hats and Nathan Phillips and all of that. Only half the story was told, and it planted the idea and the opinion in people's minds. And what happens is people tend to get an idea in their mind, and they're not going to have their minds changed. They're going to twist things once the idea is implanted in their mind that they want to be right rather than they want to know what the actual truth is. As it turned out, and don't get me wrong, I'm not condoning the death of Arbery because it was senseless. But I think the old story of him jogging was debunked by the video footage of him walking into a building under construction. Now, whether he was trespassing or stealing, it's up in the air. People debate it on all accounts. You know what? Just to say he was trespassing, because although there were reports of things being stolen, it's also been said that nothing was stolen in the end, and it's really incidental. The fact that the man was continually going to this building under construction, it was under surveillance. The police had made an agreement with the McMichaels as well as the owner of the home to contact the McMichaels when the man was in there, and they had it in their head to make a citizen arrest. They chased the man down. Arbery ran at them, and unfortunately Arbery was shot and killed. People don't want to back up and acknowledge the fact that it's a series of extremely unfortunate events. But again, aside from the races of the individuals that were involved, there is no proof that it was racially motivated, yet to read the headlines, you would never guess that. And to hear people talk about it, you would never guess that. Now, I've discussed all these issues, and I've acknowledged, and you can go back to my Facebook feed and confirm this for yourself, that I question, why is the media race baiting so much now? While everybody is already on edge because of the COVID lockdown and the economy going belly up because of it, people are going fucking crazy. Why would people be throwing gasoline on the fire? And then, of course, this incident happened with George Floyd, and it's almost like the media and even those that are on the soapboxes all but forgot about Arbery. And they're like, oh, we got a better case. This is a clear-cut case with Floyd and this asshole cop. Now, the part that I find particularly distasteful is the absolute cop hating that has come of that. I mean, people chanting, all cops are bastard. They want retribution. No justice, no peace. Well, there's nothing construed as justice in this scenario. These are riots where people are losing their livelihoods. A firefighter who had worked all his life to open up a sports bar had his bar looted and destroyed. He wasn't even able to open it yet because of COVID. He had to shut this down. And during these riots, people destroyed it. The man is crying and being filmed for the news. And while he's crying and being filmed for the news, people come in, looters come in, trying to move his safe, trying to take his safe. Low-income housing was burned. People are looting. And when you watch the footage of the riots, there are definitely two groups that are fighting this. There's people that obviously know in their heart that there's an issue with police brutality and they're protesting. I support that. Just like I supported the protesters in Michigan. We have a right to peaceful protest. Where we don't have a right is to commit crimes and to loot. The people justifying this would obviously feel different if it was their home or business being looted and destroyed. But people seem to embrace this. People seem to make excuses for the individuals doing this. Now, when you watch the footage of this happening, you see people positively excited like it's a party, giving shout-outs to their babies' mamas, just plain excited and enjoying the situation. There's nothing enjoyable about this situation. This is very ugly. This is seemingly the beginning of the boogaloo, the beginning of the Civil War. And the fact that some of you embrace this, I don't think you understand what you're wishing for. I don't think you understand what you seem to support. I think you're living in a fantasy. And I think reality is much uglier than you think. So in conclusion of all of this, this is going to do nothing for race relations. This is going to do nothing but take steps backwards when there was progress from uglier times. People really need to let go of tribal mentality and identity politics if they want to find a solution and actually get along. If you hate racism, don't be racist yourself. And by that I mean, don't pick out any group that you feel superior of, whether it's you feel all white people are bad, all black people are bad, all Asians are bad, all Latinos are bad. If you're picking out a group and you look down on them because of their race, you are a racist. It's not just a white thing. The media and the handling of these stories and the damage that their race baiting has done proves that. Are we living in a racist, tribal society? Yes, we are. But you know what? Racism rears its ugly head in the most unsuspecting of places. Now, I want to say that there's some very good people protesting. And there was another incident that I'm just going to throw in here at the end. When the protest started, before the rioting and looting began, there's footage of an individual dressed in black with an umbrella smashing out the windows of AutoZone. A young man, and I'm going to, as much as I hate identity politics, and you know what? I hate addressing race to these people, but it's almost impossible not to because of the way that media has been handling situations in order to be inflammatory and to cause that kind of tension. But the individual that was breaking the windows out was a white man in a black costume with a gas mask on and an umbrella, and a young black man called him on it, asked him, "What are you doing?" Followed him. I mean, there was a humorous part where he's like, "Hold my blunt," when they almost got into a physical fight. But it was obvious that this individual dressed in black, this white guy who was smashing out the windows, he was alone. There was something extremely suspicious about it. A lot of people are claiming they think it's a government official or even the police trying to stir up this controversy, trying to create a riot for their own nefarious political gain. But nobody knows yet. It'll be interesting to see more come out on this. That it may have been somebody in Antifa, may have just been a psychopath. We don't know yet. But all that we know for sure, in conclusion of this very unfortunate, chain of events, is it's causing more divide between people. It's causing more hate between people. There is unrest, and I don't know if it's because the lockdown and all of this COVID paranoia has worked on people's minds. I don't know if the racial tension has just been a powder keg for years. I don't know if it's a situation created by the media for bizarre manipulative reasons or just to sell stories. It's hard to say. We have to form our own opinions, but the one thing that I do know for certain is people are twisting the story to fit their narrative. People are making this a racial thing. People hate each other. If you're not on, you're forced to choose a side. There are those that embrace the chaos, the looting, and there are those of us that find it disgusting. I don't want a civil war. Do you? I would like to see things go back to a semi-normal way of life again. I just don't foresee it happening. It's a sad day, and it's a disgusting day, and people are unhappy and angry. People have been throwing around racism and race baiting so long that the progress that is being made has stepped backwards. People are dying, and all of our ways of lives has the potential to be severely impacted. If that's what you want, God help us all. And by God, I mean whatever it is you worship. I don't know. I just know it's a sad day, and I don't have a whole lot of faith. I don't have a whole lot of faith in the income. I don't have the outcome. I don't have a whole lot of faith in humanity right now. Now, to all of those of you that whoever disagrees with you, you're going to call them a Nazi, a racist, fascist, whatever, bootlicker. You are every bit as hateful and tribal-minded as the worst Klansman out there. So when you're bantering around calling everybody you dislike a racist, rather than trying to muddle through this chaos and just bizarro activity and mindset, mass hysteria. When you think you're a part of the solution, keep in mind, you very well may be part of the problem. Thank you for listening to this. I know it wasn't as exciting or as funny as most videos that I put out, but there's nothing exciting or funny about what's going on. People are filled with angst and hate, and I fear that things are only going to get worse. Ask yourself if you want to be part of the problem or part of the solution, and really let it sink in. Try to be just the slightest bit objective, and ask yourself exactly what it is you want. Examine what your own thoughts on this are, what you're supporting, who you're supporting, because it's going to affect us all for possibly the rest of this generation, the rest of our lives. Signing out. I hope you hope if anything this made you think. Feel free to comment. Please subscribe and watch my regular podcasts, Low Income Celebrity Entertainment, Lice, and Hanging Out of the Box. Thank you all very much, and question everything. Question everything, especially what it is you hold sacred. Because you know what? You may just be lying to yourself.